In 2014, the mayor of Los Angeles made a promise.
Can we end veterans' homelessness in this city by the end of 2015? Yes! Well, together, we will do just that.
They didn't. In 2015, there were over 4,000 homeless veterans in Los Angeles County. Latest count, not much under 4,000. Meanwhile, abutting beautiful Brentwood, one of LA's wealthiest neighborhoods, there is this. 388 acres gifted to the federal government beginning back in the late 1800s on one condition: that a home for disabled soldiers be thereon so located, established, constructed, and permanently maintained. A lot of the land was given by a senator and a businesswoman. Her great-great-niece lives down the road.
It wasn't given to anybody but veterans for a home.
But today, just a few hundred vets live here, many in a nursing home run by California. The federal government leases a chunk to UCLA for the Bruins' home field. Another 22 acres are leased to a private school for their tennis courts, track, swimming pool, and athletic fields.
I mean, it's scandalous.
It's really kind of disgusting to see.
Rob Reynolds deployed to Iraq on his 18th birthday for a traumatic tour. Later spent time on the streets around here, waiting for PTSD treatment.
When you see people who raise their right hand to serve our country sleeping and dying on the street, and you have one of the most elite private schools in the country charging $40,000 per year per student, and they have immaculate amenities, and the veterans are living in squalor, it just doesn't make any sense.
In 2015, after a lengthy lawsuit, the VA promised transparency, vet involvement, and later produced a master plan proposing 1,200 units for homeless vets, a community. 54 existing units have been repurposed. 710 new units should be finished by now. Timelines are fluid, but none are finished.
That's correct. There hasn't been new construction since then.
It is finally underway, but the project's still tangled in red tape, utilities issues, financing issues. Private developers are now leasing the land, building the units, and they will manage them.
What is to say that in 50 years you guys don't just then turn this into luxury apartments?
It's 100% deed restricted. That requires that these housing units be kept affordable in perpetuity.
180 units scheduled to open by year's end.
We should be up with the 1,200 within the next 8 years.
Should be 14 years after that master plan pledge.
I've dealt with quite a few veterans dying right outside the gates of the VA. If you had the right programs and the right processes in place from the beginning, those deaths would have been preventable.
Thousands of veterans did once live here, but in the 70s, the VA dedicated the campus to medical treatment, began leasing land to a car rental company, hotel laundry, a bus depot.
Where did all that money go?
For years, I believe it was stolen, parts of it, but I think some of it came in and was used in VA for some of the programs and initiatives.
In 2018, the guy who leased this lot was imprisoned for embezzling more than $13 million. He blew a bunch of it on fast cars.
How do they prove anything anyway?
Well, the guy at the VA he was bribing let the FBI tape their calls.
When the did I deposit that money? I know, Ralph, I'm speechless.
In 2016, an act of Congress decreed this land can now only be leased for services that principally benefit veterans and their families. A few weeks later, the VA renewed the license for an oil company to drill here. They donate just 2.5% of revenue to veterans. And the VA signed a new 10-year lease with Brentwood School. Last year, the VA's Inspector General said it violates that act of Congress because the principal purpose of this lease was to provide the Brentwood School continued use of the athletic facilities. On paper, the VA called that view erroneous. In person?
The arrangement with the school is non-compliant. It does have a benefit for veterans, not only on campus, but in the community.
The school pays and donates more than $2 million a year. They declined an interview, but gave a statement that reads in part, Brentwood School could not be prouder of our association with the Department of Veterans Affairs. Independent third-party audits verify that Brentwood School has met or exceeded every lease obligation. One of them, veteran access to those lovely athletic facilities.
We've heard complaints that it takes a while to get the membership card. We've brought that to the attention of Brentwood School. They said they've corrected it.
In 2017, just over 1,000 vet visits, less than 3 per day. Last year, nearly 12 per day. More than 1,200 kids attend the school.
I'm sure if we terminated the lease, they would take us to court.
And the Bruins still call this place home. Every year, UCLA pays more than $2 million in rent, as well as legal, educational, and medical contributions. They claim that's fair market rate. Actually, it's about $500,000 short. UCLA also declined a request for an interview. In 2020, in private, the VA amended UCLA's lease, added a practice field.
I've listened to you on tape in a meeting saying our advocates who are a little testy out there are going to get up in arms when they see there's another ball field being built. Why not just be transparent?
We probably should have shared that.
In 2019, the VA proposed spending over $4 million on a healing garden.
I was distressed by, to say the least.
Anthony Ullman is a vet, sits on the board created to oversee the VA's management of this land.
VA was proposing to spend $4 million on a garden with that many homeless veterans literally on the street.
After decades of pressure, the VA has finally allowed some homeless vets to camp inside on their own land. About 100 now live in so-called tiny homes.
The pandemic provided an opportunity for us to justify piloting bringing veterans on the campus.
Right.
And those promised permanent homes? VA installs utilities.
They're all studio apartments.
But the buck is passed to those private developers to finance everything else for this one building.
It took us about a year to assemble it and then another 6 months to close the financing and get shovels in the ground.
Okay. Would it have been quicker if the federal government just ponied up all the cash?
Inevitably, but that's not the reality.
I personally believe that the VA and the government should chip in for all of this. They shouldn't expect the public to redo something that they've let fall apart.
She wants to renovate the chapel.
It's going to give hope that the rest of the campus will follow suit.
When Rob Reynolds was in Iraq, 3 comrades were kidnapped by insurgents. He shipped out before they were found, dead.
If I have the opportunity to not leave someone behind and do whatever I can to try to help these guys, that's what I want to do. So this land was donated for a specific reason, and it was to remain that way forever, and that's the way it needs to remain.
Now, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs is expected to sign a new master plan for this site very soon, and the VA has appointed a new executive to oversee the process going forward. There's cautious optimism amongst advocates, cautious largely because of what's gone before. And there's one thing that a lot of advocates tell me just still doesn't make any sense. This land is managed by the VA's Greater Los Angeles healthcare system. The clue is in the name, healthcare. They do healthcare. Why isn't this land, they say, handed over to a different department within the VA or a different federal department that actually deals with housing?